All right, Dr. Vitti, we have our first question here. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead and tell us your name and what your question is.
My name is Sharon Burden, and my question is, what is it that you plan to do different that hasn't already been tried?
So, great question, and I actually am going to answer the question by saying, when we're talking about rebuilding the district, sometimes it's not doing things differently for the sake of doing them differently. Sometimes it's doing what we should have been doing a long time ago, or bringing back what worked. So, for instance, a concrete example of that are the arts. DPS used to be a foundation for the arts, where children would have access starting in kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. That's something that we have to restore and bring back. Another example is PTA. PTA used to be strong in this district, one of the models throughout the country, so bringing that back. So not avoiding your question, but I think sometimes when we talk about what we should be doing, it's what we were doing and restoring that to make this a better district.
All right, thanks, Dr. Vitti. All right, go ahead and give us your name and what your question is.
My name is Jerica Mickens, and I would like to know, what does the future of parent groups look like for DPS-CD?
So this, there are a couple of things to answer your question. One is the restoration of PTAs, so the parent-teacher associations. Our vision is that every school throughout the district will have a vibrant, active PTA where parent and teachers are working together to advocate for individual schools and their children within their community. We also will be establishing a parent academy that will engage parents in 3 major areas. One, to help them be better advocates for their child educationally. So we're going to offer classes on what questions asked during the parent-teacher conference, how to read the report card, how to promote literacy in the home. Another focus of the Parent Academy will be how to just be better parents, to be more active parents day to day with your children. So classes on discipline, conflict resolution, how to pick friends, how to monitor social media. And the last focus area of the Parent Academy will be how to develop the whole parent. So in other words, hard for a parent to advocate for their children every day when they're just dealing with life issues. So how do we help parents deal with those issues on things like financial literacy, on creating a resume, interviewing for jobs, or English language classes. The last major strategy will be the establishment of school advisory councils, where parents, teachers, students, faith-based community members, business partners will be on a leadership team with parents or with principals to problem solve and advocate for that school and in the community. So almost like a equivalent of a governance team to work with that principal to improve the academics and enrollment at that school.
All right. Hi, what's your name and what's your question for Dr. Vitti?
My name's Marlon Franklin. My question is, Dr. Vitti, first of all, thank you for taking the challenge of DPS-CD. My question is, what can you tell me as a father of a 6-year-old about going back to DPS-CD? Me and my wife, we invested a lot into DPS before you arrived. We have 2 daughters that graduated from DPS schools. But my second daughter, when she was going to CMA, she didn't have a language teacher. She had foreign language, and she was taking Spanish. She had the opportunity to take Spanish 1 and 2, but when it came time for her to take Spanish 3 and 4, they didn't have a teacher. So they opted out and gave her a class called Cultural Studies so that she would get her foreign language credit. But when she went off to college, she was at a deficit in the foreign language area. So I'm just wondering, what can you tell me as a father, because I have a 6-year-old son, and unfortunately my wife totally said no go for DPS-CD. And we really like what we're hearing, but we've heard it so many times before. My daughter's 27 and my other daughter's 22. So all these years we've been hearing what was going to be done, but again, when my daughter graduated high school, she was at a deficit in foreign language.
That's a good question.
Yeah, one, and this question has come up already tonight on a number of different opportunities. So what is different about DPS-CD? One, we have an elected board for the first time in over a decade. And that elected board is voted into office by people like you. So for the first time in a long time, we actually have an elected body that's accountable to citizens of Detroit. That elected board appointed a superintendent, myself, who has an actual track record of transforming large urban school districts. Not an emergency manager, not a political appointment, not a bureaucrat. So we are responsible and accountable to everyday citizens of Detroit. Lastly, parent to parent, I put my 4 children in this school system because I believe in the school system. So I'm not having a different set of expectations for your children as opposed to my children. And that's how we're going to transform this culture and transform the school district. We have to stop having different set of expectations for different children. It's the high expectations for all children, regardless of socioeconomic background, regardless of race, regardless of zip code that you live in. And then ultimately, I believe that a traditional public education is superior to any other education because you see the reality of life. You see the reality of the world around you. And if you can navigate through that and be successful in that, then that means that's a springboard for the reality of the world, whether it's the business world, whether it's the community at large, and that means that you're better suited and developed to be a leader of the future. And ultimately, I am going to be accountable to making sure that that happens, and so is this elected board. And that type of governance structure has not existed in this community for over a decade.
All right, why don't you go ahead and give us your name and how old you are?
My name is Gerald Jackson, and I'm 14 years old.
And what's your question for Dr. Vitti about teachers, right?
Yes. My question is, why is it that teachers are willing to say that they're forced into a horrible position where it's overcrowded, underfunded, and yet half of the time it's not even the truth? Half of the time they're actually making a large deficit over what they're doing. Whether or not they're in the forced situation or not, they're always placing themselves in a different situation. Like if a teacher, let's say, was in a classroom teaching of 26, a lot of times they'll exaggerate and say they're teaching a classroom of 35, when in fact it's not the truth. Why? Do you have a personal insight as to why they do it?
I think it might be on a case-by-case basis in the experiences that you've had. Dr. Vitti, would you?
Well, thank you for your question. Thank you for coming tonight, and just thank you for recognizing your voice. We want all children to have the same strong voice that you have. One thing that we're doing after we level, because you asked that question, so that's when enrollment occurs. We're looking at whether enrollment matches what the projected enrollment is, and that dictates how many teachers are allocated for each school. Starting this week, we're going to review class sizes throughout the district. We've actually visited all schools at the district level, and we're matching what's in the master schedule, what's in the schedule, and what's actually in the classroom. We're not just relying on technology, but we're actually going into schools, and we are going to count students in classrooms. We will level as much as possible based on our allocations and the number of students that we can, or number of teachers that we can recruit. But what is new and different in the district is we're actually going to inspect what we expect and build a culture of accountability and problem solve based on our expectations regarding class size.
All right, Dr. Vitti, we have another question here.
Okay.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Holly Franklin.
And who's this little buddy here with you?
This is Hollis Franklin, my 6-year-old son.
He was doing math homework in the pew back there, I
Yes,
saw.
yes. He goes to Kumon with Sherry.
Okay, and so why don't you go ahead? What is your question for Dr. Vitti?
My question to you is, my son is a high honor student, and for me, like my husband said about going to DPS, the only school that will be challenging will be Bates. I mean, will you open up challenging to all your school? Because right now he goes to Kumon, which has him on national level. He just took the test. He's in first grade. His reading and math is already second grade and above. So I would love to come back to DPS. I live in Brightmoor. I don't plan on going anywhere, but I need, my son's education is #1. And me as a parent, you know, because the only school around will be Bates. Are you going to look out at other schools to, you know, open up for the honor students as well?
Yes. So this is a good example of what negatively happened with emergency management. And I speak to that because as a history major, everyone needs to understand their past, so you don't repeat the past, and you learn from the past and the mistakes from the past. DPS once had a thriving gifted program where gifted students were engaged throughout the multiple communities. That gifted programming was eliminated over the past few years. So one thing that we have to restore is gifted services so that our most active and involved and curious students are offered rigorous programming, and not at only a few schools, but schools throughout the entire district. So yes, the plans are, starting in 18-19, to expand programming of gifted services and all rigorous programming so that regardless of where you live, every quadrant, every corner of the city can have access to high-level programming, whether that's Montessori, whether that's advanced placement, whether that's gifted services, or arts or music, robotics. It needs to be throughout the district, and that's one of the ways we'll increase enrollment and be more competitive, for example, with charters and private schools.
All right, go ahead, sir, your name, your question?
Keith Young. Keith Young, Ecotech Lab. I own a research laboratory in the city of Detroit for young inventors. And we know that over the last 10 years, there's been a real push for STEM and the improvement of skill sets around STEM. But we know also in the city of Detroit that a number of students are really below proficiency when it comes to math and science. What is the district going to do to ensure that our kids can compete beyond their neighborhoods in these fields?
Well, very simple. We have to teach to the rigor and expectations of the standards. Right now, our district is not doing that at scale. It depends on the school or the classroom. Starting next year, we're going to select curriculum that's in alignment to the standards so that regardless of the grade level or school or subject, we'll be using curriculum to engage students at that expectation, and that means teaching science and math more consistently, starting in kindergarten, and not waiting for the grade levels where the test is administered at the state level.
Okay, thanks. We have a next question. What's your name? Go ahead and give your question, Dr. Vitti.
My name is Aaliyah Moore. I do have a student at Paul Robeson Malcolm X Academy, which is one of the 2 African-centered schools in the district. I just wanted to know and your plans for the African-centered expanding and really just nurturing what we currently have.
I visited both schools, was impressed with the cultures of both schools. I believe the curriculum is important not only for those schools, but I do believe that as we pick new curriculum for 18-19, there has to be an African-American centric curriculum linked to that curriculum, whatever we picked. I think the best way to do that is the genres of the literature that we select, especially for English language arts. So that will be a focal point. But I'm a strong supporter of those 2 schools in the curriculum. In fact, we just increased the art allocation at Malcolm X so that we would expand art programming at the school. So strong proponent. We just have to build the programming to increase enrollment at both schools.
All right, we're going to try to get in as many questions as we can here. Go ahead, give us your name and your question.
Rachel Downs, and I'm a graduate student wrapping up my professional and school counseling degree. I'm working as a school counseling intern, and my concern is the fact that Michigan is one of the worst states in the country as it relates to the school counselor to student ratio. And we can bludgeon kids with content, but if we don't give them the programming and the development and skills to understand the importance of time management, study skills, and all the soft skills that really will make them successful in the business world, in the world of work, we're kind of chasing our tail. What are your plans to improve counseling services in DPS-CD?
Well, right now the focus has been studying the budget at the district level to understand what we're funding and what we're not, and what should we be funding based on priorities moving into next year. We will start to review school level budgets and school level allocations. We believe in equity and access. and we believe that the allocation should be standard throughout the district. So regardless of what school you're at, there should be a certain level of programming, teacher allocation, class sizes that are consistent. And one of the things that we'll look at are guidance counselors to try to create equality and equity of access to guidance counselors. I can't tell you specifically where we will end up as far as that ratio, but it will be an aspect that we look at when we try to create better balance of resources throughout the district.
All right, next question. What's your name and what's your question?
Hello, my name is Christian Harrison. I'm currently in 11th grade and I attend CMA, and that is Communication and Media Arts. I have a question as to, like, well, first, I want to say that CMA is a great school, and we are now a bronze certified school, and we're a top 3 school. It's Renaissance, CAS, and it's us. We're very, very good, and our SAT scores are increasing by the year. My only question is that we don't really have the extracurricular classes like most other schools, like I would say CAS and Renaissance. I heard you say that a lot of, lately our students have been attending a lot more, but a lot of things has decreased like in the past because a lot of arts and band, music and stuff has, disappeared somehow. I also heard you mention that you have hired or, 200 or more, teachers and stuff, giving them a chance in the job and stuff. Excuse me, I'm nervous, but
You're doing great. You are doing great. Don't worry. Take a breath.
I also heard you say that teachers are getting paid more now. It's not as much as it used to be, but it's a lot more than what it has been. But I want to know where exactly is the money, and where exactly is the money going? Because how can we improve as students? Because first, we don't really have a voice of our own. Like, we also always talk about how parents don't have a voice, but our students don't have a voice, and people aren't aware of what we go through day to day through school. Our technology is 10 years old. Our books are highly outdated. We have MacBooks that are more than 10 years old, netbooks more than 10 years old, but yet we're getting put in front of a screen to test for SAT, ACT, MSTAT. We're getting thrown these tests daily, like weekly, to prepare for whatever, to get us college ready. And I just want to know, what exactly can we do to improve? Because CMA is a great school, but we are not provided as, we are not, we're not benefiting as much as CAS and Renaissance is. Those are great schools, but we are also great too. There's other schools that are improving too, but we don't have them, we don't have the exact same qualities of every other school, and we can't do better if we don't have better things as everyone else do. So
Okay.
where exactly is the money going?
Dr. Vitti, you want to take that?
Sure. So thank you. You may remember I visited CMA even before Renaissance and CAS last year when I started. One thing that I spoke about earlier is analyzing school-level budgets and ensuring that there is a quality to programming throughout the district, regardless of the high school that you go to. For example, every high school should have at least advanced placement, international baccalaureate, ACE, or Cambridge type classes. Not only select schools, but every school should have, or dual enrollment or early college, for example, just accelerated program. That's something that we have to create better overall access to, including arts and music. When I started as superintendent, I reduced the number of district administrators to put more money back in schools. We're about to do a budget amendment this week that will show that millions of dollars have left the district level to go to schools to put more money in for technology, training for teachers. And we are going to start saving money this year to buy new books in 1819 with a focus in reading and math. At least for next year, and then we'll buy new materials in the other subject areas in the years to come. But those will all be focus areas as we go into next year. One thing that I do want to answer that you mentioned is student voice. So our commitment is that every high school, starting this year, have a student government. We want every school to have a student government, and then we're going to create an executive student government so that the leaders of every high school will elect a district set of representatives, and they will meet every month, and I will meet with them every month in order to hear what's happening throughout the district. And part of that school advisory council strategy is to have students on the council so that they can give greater voice to what's happening at their individual schools.
Okay, we have just 2 more questions for you, Dr. Vitti. Hi, what's your name?
Doreen Oldham, Western Michigan University. My question for you today is this. We have a wonderful program called Detroit College Promise that if a student graduates from any high school in the city of Detroit and they are a resident of the city of Detroit and they're admitted to one of the state universities, they are guaranteed free tuition based upon their need. So here's the problem. We have a small percentage of students who meet the requirement of 3.0 GPA and at least a 1050 or more on the SAT. Only about 350 to 400 students. We have a problem. We had the opportunity for them to get a higher education. However, they are not prepared to enroll in our universities.
Yeah, this has come up a lot internally. We have to do a better job of promoting this opportunity among our parents and our students, starting even in middle school to promote this opportunity, even elementary, so that students understand that if they work hard, that there is an opportunity to have college paid for them. Admittedly, the district has not done enough to promote the opportunity, but that's something that we've already talked about doing through parent and our students and our guidance counselors and teachers in general. So you will see greater awareness and more campaigns in this area. But thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, your name?
Okay, hi, my name is Oyuki Yudo. I am a DACA student, and I was wondering, what are your plans for other DACA students and parents that are immigrants in schools? Because you talk about safety, and it's important for a child to feel safe, but it's also important for them to feel safe when they're home with their parents, and I was just wondering, what are your plans for that?
Thank you very much for that question.
Yeah, thank you. This is a personal issue for me as a child of immigrants. The board, before I became superintendent, passed a resolution regarding this issue. We promoted it among our principals. Please know that as superintendent, I will advocate in Lansing and in DC to protect the rights of our students. And if there are more opportunities to do so, as superintendent, please let me know. But I will stand with students and parents on this issue time and time again.
We're so appreciative. We're so appreciative of your time. We have one last question here. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Kiera Martin. I currently attend Communication and Media Arts High. Far as college, you say there are students who's graduating, but they don't really have the opportunity to go to college because they're not actually college ready. And we do have a high graduation rate, but how many DPS students are actually going to college is my question.
Well said. One thing that, just for everyone to understand, obviously you can graduate with a 4-year degree and graduate in 4 years and be part of the college or the high school graduation rate. But college readiness is defined by the SAT, the ACT, and other forms of college placement tests. One thing that we have to do a better job is tracking and understanding statistically how many students are actually graduating but not enrolling or enrolling in college and not graduating. One thing that I've already agreed to as part of my superintendent evaluation is looking at post-secondary readiness and also looking at post-secondary enrollment. We want the high school experience to be a springboard to college or the world of work. And if we're going to talk about a springboard to college, then we have to start measuring readiness skills and readiness criteria as defined by the ACT and the SAT. That's something that we are going to start doing and that I'm willing to hold myself accountable to. But everything will culminate to being college ready through the ACT and the SAT unless those metrics change. We're going to begin to track that and understand that and problem solve and offer students actual classes on ACT and SAT prep work and offering after-school opportunities and even summer opportunities to ensure that more and more our students are not only graduating 4 years, but being college ready. Excellent question and excellent point. We just don't want our students graduating from high school, but we want them going on to college or being ready to go into the workforce. And I think it's okay to talk about that because a lot of students have different intelligences, different interests, and a lot of our students can start working at a high employment opportunity and then go back to school when they're ready to go back to school, but having job-ready skills allows them to be employed and earn higher wages after high school if they don't want to immediately go into college.
Okay,
All right.
thanks very much to Dr. Vitti for all his time.
Thank you.
And thank you, of course, to all of our guests as well as the audience. Give yourselves a hand.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll do.